everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Katie Nilful, and if you're new here, I make impractical crafts and lifestyle content. If there is one thing you should know about me, it was that in my 10-year plan 10 years ago when I was 14, living in southern Arizona by the time I was 24 was not on the list like whatsoever. I figured I was going to be somewhere back east, maybe like I think Vermont was kind of like my goal. And here I am, 24 years old, with my husband and my child still in my hometown here in southern Arizona. Now, although arguably southern Arizona is very beautiful for lots of the year, to be honest, it is not the green that I crave, because I love Vermont, and honestly anywhere that just has green instead of like green parts of the year and then like brown the rest of the year. So that is why I have moved to bringing plants inside. I have a few different ones, and they all come from my big mother plant, whose name is Mao, because he is a devil's ivy. And if you understand that reference, then we can be friends. And if not, then you have some learning to do, and then we can continue to be friends. But this week, I have decided to make myself a plant propagation wall hanger based on the Studio Ghibli movie Princess Mononoke, specifically these forest spirits. Part of the challenge of this week's video is I am in the middle of a no-buy month. February, we're not buying anything. All of the money we save this month is going directly into our down payment fund for a house. So with that in mind, I have been scrounging around my apartment trying to figure out what I'm going to use to make this craft. And so let me show you all of the stuff that I have managed to gather. First up, we have this clay. This is the clay that I used to make my Coraline doll, and I'm hoping it's still good. I mean, it's squishy. I don't know if it has an expiration date, so we are going to try it out. It's an oven-baked clay, and I'm going to be using it for the bodies of my forest spirits. Then we have, my husband and I are huge D&D players, and we have two of these almost like chemistry bottles. This is a beaker. Little looking things. So we sacrificed these, we dumped all the dice that came in here out, and so I have two of these, and then I have a glass bottle that I used for bath salts. So we're going to be using 3 of these. And then we have some twine that I used for a different craft long time ago. It was for a Christmas craft back at our other place way before we were parents. What is happening? So we have that, and then we have this stick, which my son Owen picked up at the park, and at the time I was like, this will be great, look at that, free toys. Well, as I'm sure any seasoned parent or like any person who has any sort of logic about them, because apparently I lack this, the second we brought it home, it went from being a wizard's wand to a sword. And I do not know a whole lot about sword fighting, but I kind of know the person who does not have the sword in a sword fight is the one who loses. And considering the fact that I did not have a sword and Owen only did, I very quickly took it away and put it in my room because I was like, it's a pretty straight stick. So I thought it was pretty cool. So my son's stick from the park will now be a permanent wall decor fixture. And finally, the one thing that I bought for this project last month in January is some of this folk art glow-in-the-dark paint so that my forest spirits can glow in the dark, supposedly. So, without any further ado, let me get started.
Since we're all about realism here on my channel, I just wanted to say that I feel really clumsy when it comes to clay. Like, I'm not really sure what I'm doing or how to work with it. So this was quite difficult and kind of frustrating. But once I got shapes that I was okay with, I set my oven to 275 and I used the back of different sized paintbrushes to make the eyes and the mouth, and then it was ready to bake. And it said that it needed 15 minutes for every 1/4 inch, and because I didn't use any kind of tinfoil or armature wire in this clay, I ended up baking it for a little over an hour just to make sure that it was totally done. Once they cooled off, I went in with my first layer of glow-in-the-dark paint, and I put it aside because this was a Sunday, and then I hopped into my week of school. But I will say, you see all this paint on my finger? This gave me a full heart attack at like 2 a.m. when I went to scratch my nose that night. Throughout the week, I went through and I added layer after layer of glow-in-the-dark paint, and I couldn't tell if it was soaking into the clay, but I did end up putting a layer of Mod Podge, which you can see me here opening very unsatisfyingly, but that's okay because we're not about satisfaction on this channel. And once I did that, it kind of helped it not soak into the clay so that it would actually glow, but it still never ended up as even as I wanted it to. And I was also trying to figure out how I wanted to arrange my little guys on here. So here I am just kind of getting an idea of how they were going to look, and that takes us into our second day.
Hello, welcome to day 2 of this project. This is my second and final day of this project because I'm taking 2 days to do it because it has actually been a week since we filmed day 1. What I'm doing today is I am going to do the macrame look to hang up my jar, as well as attaching my 3 forest spirits to the stick, and then we are going to find clippings for my plants. The truth is, I am taking kind of what I would consider like the cheating coward's way out with this macrame, and I've decided to hot glue kind of like a macrame look rather than actually attempting it. Because I did try one yesterday. I tried following this tutorial and I was getting really frustrated, and I just couldn't figure it out because I couldn't find anything for my actual, by the way, it's called a test tube and not a beaker. But I couldn't find anything for the test tube look that wasn't like a link to Etsy to buy it pre-made, and that's not what I wanted. So I'm going to wing it a little bit and hot glue to make it look like the macrame. I have one friend who's really talented at making macrame. She went and sent me one for Christmas, and I was like, wow, this is so impressive. I wish I could learn how to do that. I still wish I could learn how to do that, but that will not be in this video. So without any further ado, let's figure out the macrame hanging up situation for my stick.
1 MBD later, I could not find the hot glue gun, and so I found this rubber cement, which I had never used before, and I was quite worried about using, so I made a desperate call to Hens to see if he knew where the hot glue gun was. This is the part when I tell you, don't do what I did, because I cut my twine to the length that I wanted it to be before I braided it, and I should have known that when you braid something, it gets shorter, because when you braid hair, it also gets shorter. So this ended up not being as long as I was hoping it was going to be, and that's totally okay because we'd never expect perfection here. But I tied it to one end of the stick and I braided it, and when it was done being braided, I stuck my little guy through it so that he could be holding on and standing up, and this worked out pretty well. And then Hens called me and I found the hot glue gun, and so I was able to work on the rest of the test tubes. So I pretty much just hot glued around the top so that they could hang, and then I went through with twine later and I hid those messy edges on the sides. And because we're friends and we strive for realism here, I did fail the no-buy. As you can see, there's a Dunkin' Donuts right there. And honestly, I don't really have a good excuse for it other than I was stressed out and I just really wanted a drink and food. So that was a fail, which you'll be seeing in a video that I'm doing coming up, where we just kind of go over how our no-buy month went. It'll be a bi-monthly update that I do. But yeah, so there's a little sneak peek. To connect my little guys, I moved over to the wall and I took down our silhouettes we got done at Disneyland so that I could hang it up and balance where I wanted everything to go. And I just hot glued these on and hoped for the best. I kind of mixed up whose head was supposed to be who, so you can see me trying to figure that out. But in the end, it doesn't really matter all that much. Then I went through with some black paint to paint their little faces in, and it was time to propagate. To propagate, you find a healthy plant and you find one of these root buds that has some leaves above it, and you cut diagonally with clean scissors just below it. Now that you have your little branch with your root bud and leaves above it, you're going to take that leaf that's right next to that root bud, and that is what is going to go into the water. I have been told that you don't want to put more than one root bud into the water because that can cause root rot, but I personally have never experienced that. You're going to fill her up, and with that, that takes us to the reveal.
Here it is! I am so happy with it. Couple of notes. Number one, I'm not very good at clay, which we learned when I made my Coraline doll like 3 years ago now. And this is the same clay as that, and I did not improve because I haven't done anything with clay since then. So, number one. Number two, the glow-in-the-dark paint, although it does give the effect that I wanted it to, it is not as even as I would like it to go on. I ended up going over it with some Mod Podge and then putting more on top of that and more Mod Podge to try to keep it all from soaking in. I don't know if it was soaking into the clay because this isn't foam clay, but it wasn't going on even. I think my dad had the same problem when he painted stars on my parents' ceiling because this paint was kind of a strange consistency, like it's very plastic-like, like very strange. I'm not entirely sure where in our apartment I'm going to put it yet. I am very happy with how it looks, but it can't be right here. It's too crowded right here. We have a clock, we have our sewing machine table, which I found on the side of the road, and we have this plant, and we have our plant that we're babysitting. And so right here is not a good spot for my propagation. It's probably going to end up somewhere out here because while things are rooting, they need a lot of light, and I don't open the window in my bedroom every day. But eventually, once I have enough that have rooted and I can put them in soil, I cannot wait to add more plants to my bedroom. Yeah, I am pretty happy with it. I think that they're a little wonky looking, but they're kind of wonky looking in the movie, so we're on brand. Thank you so much for being here. This is actually my 5th week in a row uploading. I have uploaded every single week in January so far, but I am switching back to my every other week until I graduate in 10 weeks from the university. I have a lot of work to be doing for the rest of the semester, so I'm switching back to my every other week, and I will be seeing you in my next one. Toodles! This week I have decided to make myself a Studio Ghibli. To make myself a This week I have decided to make myself a somewhat not so fun fact about me is that I'm actually allergic to fake plants. This really fun thing happens where I break into hives. Real plants it is.
He knew you were recording.
Did you see that? He looked at the camera.
I know, I was like, did you see him look at the camera and like, pick me up?
Okay, say hi everyone.